Alright, so I finally made the plunge and ordered from Royal Tiger Imports. I heard some mixed reviews on YouTube, but I decided to check it out for myself and see what I get. I decided to order a Yugoslavian refurbished K98, and again, I heard some mixed reviews about it, but I wanted to check it out myself. Typically, I'm more of a 19th century firearms kind of guy, but I do have some interest in the Second World War as well. So I wanted to check out what K98s they had. So the box has been opened. It was opened at the FFL for the initial inspection. However, aside from that, I haven't actually inspected this weapon, so this has been my real first impression of it. So let's see what we got. So it seems to be packed pretty well. It was wrapped pretty well in bubble wrap, which I always appreciate. Pretty good box too. Set that aside. Wrap this. I always like to wear gloves when handling these types of mill certs, just because usually they're taped in cosmoline. Here with this bubble wrap. So here it is. Initial thought looks to be in decent shape. I mean, there is some, looks like some pitting on the barrel bands here. A little bit of pitting on the barrel. Bluing's pretty much shot on it. Weapon is cocked. It is clear. Looks like pretty decent shape. Magazine area, if you can see that. Stock overall looks pretty good. So here it is, a little close-up look. Don't see any real concerns with the stock. Has a rubber band on it, it's kind of weird, but looks like some kind of rack number. I mean, overall, the stock looks pretty good. It's these parts have a little bit of pitting on them, and you can see that the bluing is pretty much long gone. There's no cleaning rod, that's to be expected. Sight hood looks like it's perhaps recently put on. Doesn't seem to match the rest of the bluing levels. Again, no cleaning rod, but that's kind of to be expected. A lot of dirt and grime, especially here in some of these little nooks and crannies. The buttstock's got some pitting on it, but nothing too crazy. So the next thing to look at will be all the small parts. So looking at the bolt, looks pretty decent, at least from the outside. The extractor looks okay. Lots of cosmoline here in this area where the magazine is and where the bolt rests. You can see a large Yugo stamping there. Well, some could be proof marks on the barrel. I'm not too knowledgeable with the Yugoslavian marks. Stamp model 98 on the receiver. Trigger guard and floor plate look okay. It's interesting enough, and it looks like it has both both sets of retaining screws, which is pretty good. Usually those are missing. A little bit of pitting on the bottom of the top of the trigger guard here, just below the trigger. So let's take apart the bolt and see what we got in there. Alright, so here it is all apart. It's relatively painless, especially since I'm more used to much older surplus weapons, like 19th century ones, where I'd have to get a torch out to take a lot of these screws out. But it went pretty well, especially if you have like a gunsmithing screwdriver set to really get a good grip on those flatheads. So overall, I would say the metal parts are pretty decent, especially those that weren't exposed. I mean, you can see the bluing on the floor plate on the inside compared to the outside. Really, the magazine parts, pretty decent. Spring. Screws look pretty good too. Now with the screws, I'm showing them to you, but I always like to throw those into this little cap right here so I don't lose them. The retaining screws are in there as well. The trigger guard does have a little bit of pitting on the outside, and there's a lot of just grime and cosmoline and dirt where the metal was reaching the wood a little bit. You guys can see that. But the bluing is, much better on the inside. Now the barrel itself, the bluing is actually really nice where it was covered up by the wood. I don't see any pitting. I don't really see any issues with the underside of the barrel. I haven't looked at the bore yet, but at least from looking at the underside of the barrel here, I don't really see any issues. Again, the bands are pretty worn and pitted. I leave them on the barrel because it's a pain to get the sight hood on and off. So if you just push them to the end here, you're able to disassemble it and then just slide them back on. I know there's a reverse, basically like reverse pliers you can use to pull this off. It's pretty easy, but I don't have it, so I'm not going to go through that pain. I do appreciate that they put the import mark under the barrel as opposed to somewhere more visible. Here's the trigger. Looks pretty good. Yeah, you really can just see the kind of the night and day difference in the bluing between what was protected by the stock and what wasn't. There also seems to be a lot of dirt and some plant material, and not sure if these are bugs or not. They might be. But they're long dead, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But definitely a lot of stuff underneath the where the stock was. Little markings. So checked out the stock as well. Kind of similar situation with the dirt. Not as bad though. The little bit of bug and dirt and plant material. Nothing moving though, so that's always appreciated. You can see the rest of the stock. Pretty decent shape. The butt plate I had to kind of tap off real kind of methodically. You can see it definitely needs to get cleaned out. What happens is over time, obviously the wood expands as well as when metal corrodes. So what'll end up happening is if you don't clean this part out, this will basically get so stuck onto the stock that you just won't be able to get it off. Same with the butt plate screws. They came out easy enough, but if you don't keep these oiled, not all the time, but just kind of once a year or twice a year, just take these out and clean and oil. And what happens is they expand and get stuck in the stock. And as you can probably see with some of my Martini Henry videos, are a pain to take out at that point. As far as the bolt, the parts look okay. There was a little issue I was having with it. I actually ended up having to pull this cocking piece back in order to get it taken apart. So I got to see what's going on with this bolt. I don't think there's any issue with it, but I think it just needs a cleaning. But it looks like all the parts are pretty good. I've seen some videos where these teeth are pretty worn out, but they look in pretty good shape. Spring looks great. Yeah, all the parts looking pretty good. A little bit of pitting, but it was exposed, so I'm not too surprised there. So I'll go take a look at the barrel. It's pretty hard to, or the bore, it's pretty hard to look at in a camera. So I'll report back later on in the video on what I see. Here we are after a bit of cleaning. So I was able to get all the parts out, and just kind of a quick clean. I mean, they're pretty clean, but I'll probably go through again in another week. Give some time for that oil that I put in there to work its way in and loosen up some of the other hardened crud that's in there. But overall, I mean, it cleaned up pretty nicely. As you can see, a lot of the dirt and grime is out of there. The underside of the barrel, definitely a marked difference. All the whatever that vegetation was and bugs and all of their dirt that was under there is now gone. Pretty nice bluing under the barrel too. I also noticed, when I was cleaning this, it's so faint you probably won't be able to see it in the video, but there's a 1938 date right under the crest. Very, very slight, but I guess that was saved from the grinder. See the stock, I put just one coat of linseed oil on it. Big difference there. Still that reddish lacquer that you see in a lot of the Eastern Bloc refinishes and Russian captures, but a really nice laminated stock overall. And then I cleaned up the right here, the bayonet lug. Clean that up. Again, still a little bit of dirt and crud in there, but just going to kind of take my time over the next few weeks and just kind of chip away at it since there's so much of it. Now I did look at the bore. The bore looks pretty good. It does have some pretty decent rifling. It was absolutely filthy. As you can see right here, I ran this brush through it, and then I put these shotgun mops through it, and they're totally wrecked. These are 6.5 millimeter shotgun mops, and they're just absolutely filthy. Ran that through quite a few times. Still, some crud in the bore. Also ran a bore snake through a few times. There's actually an 8 millimeter specific bore snake you can get. You can find on Amazon. But still some more work to do on the bore before I really give a final determination on it. But it does have some rifling. I have an 8 millimeter round, that I can put in the muzzle here. You can see it does catch it. It doesn't go all the way through. But I'll have to really keep cleaning it out to give my final verdict on that. The bolt parts cleaned up pretty well. You can see still some, there's obviously pitting on the outside, exposed parts, but overall, really like how the spring condition is. A lot of these parts are pretty good. Still have some linseed oil on this piece, but it looks like it's coming out pretty nicely. Spring's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it overall. I'll put it back together after I give it a wipe down and do some functions tests on it. But overall, pretty decent shape, for a mil-cert weapon that's been sitting in Ethiopia for God knows how long. And yeah, let's put it back together and see how it looks. Alright, so here it is in just better light. Outside in my backyard, a little dark on the workbench. See that really red lacquer they put on there. Front bands pretty much have no bluing on them, pitted. Some light pitting on the barrel, but nothing serious. Flipping it over. Little light pitting on the outside. Nothing that I'm worried about. Here you might see that really slight 1938 date under the crest. I'm just happier that the under the barrel and the areas that the metal meets the wood aren't pitted as well. So it's actually really nice condition under the wood, which is nice. Flip it on the back. See there, some slight pitting, but nothing serious. Just surface pitting. Nothing that would affect the safety or operation of the weapon. I did figure out what was going on with the bolt. The cocking piece here, compared to my other K98s, is slightly different. It seems to have a shorter piece that runs under here to where the firing pin is, and so it doesn't go back far enough for the safety lever to actually catch. So I'll probably replace this part just so that safety works without me having to basically pull this cocking indicator farther back, but still operates regardless. Other than that, I just need to source a cleaning rod for it and a sling, but pretty good find, I'd say, overall. I think compared to some of the other ones I've seen, I lucked out a little bit. So I did order a infield number 1 from Royal Tiger, and when I get that, I will also do a unboxing and cleaning video as well. Thank you for listening.